Thanks. Hi, yeah, I'm Fredrik Korsbäck. My business title is Infrastructure Business Developer for IP and Interconnect, but I guess I do a little bit of basically everything that surrounds the edge network for AWS. So I will cover a lot of ground today. I only have 20 minutes, so I will touch on small different subjects. We'll take some questions at the end. Otherwise, I will be here until tomorrow. So first, we need to kind of understand what the Amazon network is, or rather the AS16509 network. What does it serve, and how is it built? So we kind of look, we at the people that work for 16509, we see ourselves as the transit carrier or the carrier for the Amazon family of companies. And we typically operate, look, feel, and kind of do the same as a regular carrier would do. Really, the only difference is that today, these type of networks are most likely fairly larger than the typical carrier network you would see today. One of the primary customers we have is the cloud or the availability zones that we call them. Essentially what it is that today we have built 26 cloud regions in the world. They consist of at least 3 availability zones for redundancy, with S3 storage and these kind of things. Right now, we currently have teams out in Australia, Canada, India, and a couple more places to build these ones. And these are the home when people talk about EC2 or S3 or DynamoDB, and these are the type of services that lives in the cloud. But today, reality is that there is 200 more of these services. Like, I don't even know the name of 80% of them, right? Like, it's log analysis, it's blockchain stuff, and whatever it is, right? And on top of the cloud, we also have a lot of other things that we serve. So the CDN is something that a lot of ISPs is aware of, exists. We have Anycast services, DNS services, VPNs. We have offices. We have our factories, the fulfillment centers. Satellite network is something we're building. We have an airline these days. Jeff is building stuff into space, so that is also on the network. And pretty much like any other carrier you would see, like we're starting to have a pretty broad spectrum of customers we need to serve. And also, Amazon is a company that has more employees than the country of Estonia, right? Like there's more Amazon employees than there are Estonians in the world. So it's a fairly large company. So start looking at maps here. So in Europe, we do have a couple of regions. Some of them are fairly old, like the one in Dublin has been around for, I believe, 12 years or something like that. Stockholm is the newest one we had, built a couple of years ago, and currently we're building in Switzerland and in Spain and in Israel here in the European region. Looking more in the edge service kind of space, so today we operate out of 310 different points of presence in the world. One of the main uses for building such a large network is the CloudFront CDN. Today we are in the petabytes kind of range of things. And it's used by services such as Slack or Prime Video and thousands of other customers that some of them are big, some of them are small. Security is also something that happens in the edge. The DDoS thing, I've been talking about that a lot in previous conferences, but it is something that we need to handle every single awakened second of the day, right? Like DDoS, we are constantly under DDoS. There's no silent minute of that. It's a constant noise. Acceleration service is also popular these days, especially for gaming functions, primarily built on Anycast solutions, but there's other versions of that too. And we have computing in the edge too. People call it serverless. I don't know what that word means, but it's here on the slide at least. And we're building more in this space, and I'm here to talk about also how that could change a little bit, how peering looks like. Direct Connect, I want to mention that. It's a very common misconception what that is and what it is not. It is something that is available in not all points of presence, but most of them. It can be consumed direct or through a connectivity partner. There is probably people in this room that works for a connectivity partner. So that is basically to get a private link to AWS, but it is not like private peering or such like that. It is primarily for customers of AWS that needs their own security functions. You get VLANs with inside your own little network topology. It does come with MACsec, it does come with SLAs and QoS, and it does come with an invoice. So this is something that heavy users of AWS internal services are using. So very, very common when I go out and talk about peering with people. It's like, oh, is this direct connect or what's the difference? So I just kind of want to make it clear that it's not the same thing. This is connectivity services, whereas peering is something completely different. All right, so edge pops in Europe looks like this. Obviously, we have been in Helsinki for quite some time in Equinix HE7 or that campus. One of the newest ones we have in Tallinn as well, in the Telia data center in Tallinn. And I guess soon enough, we are present in every single European country that there is a data center in, I would say. So there is a little bit of gaps there to the east. Unfortunately, this situation in the world hasn't made it easier to go east, so we need to be careful about that. Yeah, we're looking at basically every European country, and we want to most likely expand into more like secondary locations in these countries too. And we are intent to bring along CDN services as well as some of the new cool things we're doing. So local zones is something I would like people to be aware of. So that's where we build a smaller version of our cloud and put it closer to the user. And we're bringing like a subset of some of the services, essentially the most popular ones, I've been told, EC2. At least I know what EC2 means, right? So this is a service that will be available in these local zones. We're bringing along like Kubernetes services, container services to these places. And this will use existing connectivity. So if you already peer with us, you're good to go. As soon as we're done with these local zones, we will start routing with them immediately. Hot potato routing, nothing strange there. It does tie back to the parent region for certain services. So, for example, here in Finland, where we're constructing a local zone right now, we'll actually go there on Friday and see how they're doing. It will tie back to the Stockholm region for certain services. For example, the login panel and some of the security groups will be kind of tied to Stockholm. It will use existing connectivity, as I said. And actually, pretty funny, one of the first public customers we will use for this is Supercell, that it will use local zones in every part of the world to get closer to their end users, because it's a gaming company, right? They have Brawl Stars and a bunch of other mobile games, right? They want to be as close as possible to the user. Speaking about being close to the user, another thing which probably has the worst product name in the history of product names is what we call wavelength zones. And whenever this was launched by the product team, the whole networking team was like, no, that is a terrible name. So it has nothing to do with DWDM. Like we have heard Florian here talk about wavelengths for quite some time, and this unfortunately has nothing to do with wavelengths. But it is a local zones, but it is used for 5G MEC, so mobile edge compute. So we essentially build a small version of the cloud inside ISPs or mobile operators 5G aggregator zones, right? So that you can, as a customer at AWS, you can buy a VM technically in maybe Vodafone's Manchester 5G aggregator node. I guess we don't really know the full extent of this, like what can it be used for, but like on top of my head, like financial stuff, gaming stuff, connected vehicle stuff, I think this is a pretty cool development in this market. Today we're partnering with Verizon, Vodafone, KDDI, and ST Telecom as a day one thing. This is currently, you can buy this stuff, but it is super early in its stages. We will see what the customer is going to bring to this. Okay, so local zones in Europe is going to be basically everywhere. So all Scandinavian countries is getting local zones. So Helsinki, Oslo, Copenhagen is getting them, and a whole bunch of other places here in Europe. When we're done with these, we'll see which more markets would be interested in this. But it seems that it is a lot more interesting than we thought. So it might be that we need to go a bit faster on this and see what we can do. Okay, 400 gig. One of my favorite subjects. So we have been like a 400 gig like user and supporter for a long time. Even 2020, we launched our first like 400 gig type of VM. It was an NVIDIA-based like machine learning thing, but it is something that you can buy today and has been able to buy for 2 years, right? And for us, or basically everything that happens in terms of the technology innovation, first comes to the data center, and then it kind of comes to the backbone, and then we at the edge team kind of get the innovations last, I would say, at least in this cycle. So we're kind of already done with the data center bit and the backbone bit that has been running on 400 gig native solutions for quite some time. And now we're doing the migrations in the edge to be 400 gig native. And what that means, I will come into a little later. So right now, we are currently swapping out sites globally. Like whenever we do things, we don't really, buy new line cards to put in the routers because we don't have routers anymore that have line cards. Like it's pizza boxes or nothing, right? So we swap out whole sites. Like we do forklift type of upgrades. For us, it's really the only way to do this stuff. So we take everything out, put something new in. Because we believe that it is the most cost-effective way of doing it in the long term. So whenever we come to this, right, and we need this to be activated towards peers, I believe, and my company believes, that 400 gig LR4 will be the only standard we will support for the time being. I'm more than happy to also support a ZR in the future. We already use 400 gig ZR, just as Florian said, in the metro. So converting that to the edge would not be impossible. 8-lane options for us is completely impossible. There's nothing in our kind of like how we build things that is built around 8-lane technology. I think most of the business, like most vendors, has decided that this is indeed the way to go. But I had this presentation, I believe, in Greece a couple of months ago, and there was a vendor that truly believed that 8-lane was the thing. I don't see it. Like we don't have really stuff that support 8-lane stuff anyway. So for us, if you want to connect with us, it's going to be LR4. I know some IXs that was super early in this technology wanted to do FR4, and like I applaud that, right? But using 2-kilometer technologies, I don't think anyone wants to deal with that. At least we don't want to deal with that. Like one of our biggest costs when it comes to interconnecting with someone is the remote hands cost for troubleshooting cross connects over data centers. Like that is a massive, massive, massive time thief for us. So if we can go from 10-kilometer optics instead of 2-kilometer optics, that saves us, at least in my book, 80% of our work in terms of troubleshooting cross connects. So yeah, that is at least how we think about this. And if you have plans for 400 gig, please talk to me. I'm the market responsible for everything, basically north of Berlin, which is probably applicable for most people in this room. So please talk to me about it. Okay, 10 gig then. So 10 gig on peering will really not work for us because today we're going to buy, like we're already buying 400 gig type of pizza boxes. And for us to produce a 10 gig port with that, we need to sacrifice a 400 gig port. So technically we can do it, right? Like we can take one of our QSFP DD holes that is a 400 gig cage, right? And we can put a QSFP to SFP converter or something like that. Like it is technically feasible, but it will never really be scalable for us if we're going to sacrifice 390 gig of possible forwarding every time someone wants a 10 gig. So we truly believe that within 2 years, 10 gig will not be something that will be offered on peering edge at all. I would even suggest that that is actually true for even tomorrow. 100 gig, however, will be the de facto standard going forward for quite some time. I'm happy to hear people's thoughts about 100 gig LR1 because that would save us a lot of time and money on using 400 when we use 400 gig native platforms, so we can do breakouts with LR1s. Because I'm not sure if perhaps Flex Optics agree here, but I don't see that we're going to get 400 gig optics with 4 breakouts to 100 gig LR4 at a reasonable time frame at a reasonable price. That's 16 lasers in one cage. I don't think we want to go that far. So yeah, Flex Optics CTO over there, he agrees it's not going to go. So like, it would be great for us. Like we already have the technology. We use LR1 internally, right? Like LR1 or FR1 internally. So for us, it's really no big problem to support LR1 in the edge if someone wants to do it and save some money. Okay, let's finish off with some RPKI since it is a must that someone needs to talk about it at every conference in the world. So I guess today was me. So yeah, RPKI, it is one of my pet projects at AWS. Today we are dropping RPKI invalids on 100% of our peering sessions. Doesn't matter if it's transit, IX, PNI, whatever it is getting dropped everywhere. We have signed today 99 point something percentage of our IP space. There are still a few prefixes that are under debate in the LACNIC region of how we should do with them. Today we have like a fully automatic RUA renewal machine. This has also sometimes like broken infrastructure because we renewed too much. But now I think we're in a good state where we have found the right level how to do this. We have a service called Bring Your Own IP, which essentially is that you take your own IP addresses and you bring them to us, and you can use it on your virtual machines or your global accelerator stuff or whatever you want to do. You want to save some money, you want to use IPv4 or v6 for that matter, want to be able to address stuff in the cloud. We support that, but that is depending on RPKI. You cannot move it unless you can do RPKI. And this has caused problems, right? Like there is certain businesses out there in the world that are fairly big that cannot sign RPKI robots today because they have legacy space. And really, we have no way around it. Like we need RPKI to be able to support Bring Your Own IP. And there is a lot of business that's being left on the ground because of that, but that's how it has to go. For us, RPKI, both the origin validation part and the ROA creation part is, for us, a Severity 1 service. It is basically the same type of alerting mechanisms and the same type of full Severity 1 on-call rotations as we have for DHCP servers or DNS servers, right? Like this is, for us, extremely critical infrastructure. So if there's something wrong with RPKI, there will be 10 people on a call immediately trying to figure out what's wrong. And after that, we call Job and see what he thinks went wrong. So this is how we do it, and I think we've been fairly successful. And we know that we have been saved so many times by RPKI. We're trying to do like an internal calculation. Can we calculate how much money we have saved by using RPKI, right? Because every time, maybe a big banking customer goes down or a banking customer loses access to a payment system, right? And both of them are running on AWS, or one is running in AWS and one is outside, and there's a hijack and these cannot communicate, that is a lot of money that is not going somewhere, right? And we're trying to do this internally to see, it's like, hey, can we put a number on this? Because I think it would be cool to prove to upper leadership, it's like, hey, we saved $20 million by implementing RPKI. Okay. So where are we going? I mean, we've only been talking about BGP-Sec today, right? And I, just as basically everyone on the panel, also believes that BGP-Sec is part of the RPKI ecosystem. So some of the other things that we believe are part of the RPKI ecosystem, and I think that we want to do, is delegated RPKI. Regardless of how it looks like, I think this is something we need to move to. I think for our sake, we want to do kind of the whole thing. So we want to own the CA, and we also want to do the publication of our own, given that we do have a global CDN, so us doing publication kind of makes sense. It's part of our core business. But we happy support the models where you, for example, use publish and parent under the RIRs. I think we think that is a good idea too. We want to improve the BYOP process for customers. We're looking at the up-and-coming RSC ITF standard. We think that this will be an integral part of how we do Bring Your Own IP in the future. Because today it is a bit like a hacky solution that we do today. And with RSC, we think that this will become, perfect is a harsh word, but a lot better than what we have today to make the process easier for the customer that brings their own IP to the cloud. Something that I think we're kind of done with is to work and reach out to networks that have invalids today. We have been doing this for quite some time, and as soon as we see invalids come in, we kind of reach out to the network. It's like, hey, dude, this network is invalid. We will drop this, and you will not have accessibility to AWS. Is that what you want? But today, everyone that has static invalids that have been invalid for a long time probably don't have customers on them, so they don't matter. So I think point number 3 there, we're kind of done with that. I think if you have invalid RPKI routes, that's on you, right? Just fix them. That's the only way to do it. We're still kind of like Manners. I'm part of the Manners cloud and CDN ecosystem. I think there's still some things we can do in that organization. If not, at least offer more training and bigger outreach to have people join that. For the one that doesn't know, Manners is an ISOC initiative called for Mutually Agreed Norms for Routing Security. And yeah, we will continue to be invested in that and see what we can bring forward through that program. We also think that RIRs has a little bit way to go in terms of improving both the ecosystem, but also operational stability and some outreach as well of how we should handle RPKI. And 6th and last point will be to look around the corner, right? And I see 2 things around the corner. First, BGP-Sec, we've been talking about that. That is kind of on the 10-year, kind of looking around the corner. I think ASPA is something we will need to, and that is probably in the like around the corner in 3 years kind of thing. Just as we said today on the panel, I think we need both. And this is this is what we're looking for and happy to support, and hopefully we can make the best out of it so we can avoid these $10 million kind of hijacks that's still ongoing basically every day. That's it for me. Please send me questions if there's anything. Otherwise, I think we're going to lightning talks.
Correct. Thank you, Fredrik. It was,
Thank you.
as ever, a great talk.
Thank you,
And
first.
I think very helpful for everyone in the community. And we don't have time for questions, unfortunately.